So this is Rabbi Flo, also known as Ari Erlich, and I am here for the third time with Abe Braha. Abe, thank you so much for coming. I've gotten so much out of these conversations. We were just talking about it, and I'm really looking forward for this one.
Same, and I thank you for having me on again, because it's always a pleasure to speak with you.
Oh, thanks. What do you like most about talking with me?
It's chilled, It's like it doesn't feel like pressure. It just feels like a good conversation, as opposed to like some other things I've done in the past. Feels like a really like strong interview. It just
Hmm.
feels like, it flows, like Rabbi Flow.
Nice. Very good. Awesome. All right. So we've talked about sales on a high level, the philosophy and the psychology behind it. We got practically into it last time with really understanding like the five core things that a business needs when they're setting up a program for a salesperson to know that they're going to succeed. Now we're getting even more into the practical of like what does the day in the life of a salesperson look like, specifically someone who's doing that harder part of going out and getting leads and converting them into people that want to have a conversation. Because every single salesperson the dream is just to be sitting all day long and have people who want to talk to them about what they're selling. And everyone's like, yeah, if I could just do that, I'd be great. But that, yeah, everyone wishes that they just do that. Like no one wants to do that other part, which is like, yeah, that's just like, no, that is what selling is. So what does the day in the life of a salesperson who's doing that job look like?
So it's a great question. I think there's tons there that we could speak about and sort of go through. As like a an introduction, I guess. Like I feel like this is funny and gives you a little bit of a like intro into what we'll speak about. So someone that I was working with, actually, he was like getting frustrated. I don't have enough new leads. I want to be able to be like speaking with new leads, and then I'll be able to close them all the time. Um, so he asked me, read me what you have on your calendar today. And so I was like, okay, I'll read you. I have a call with one of my clients, and I have a call with a salesperson that I'm working with, and then I have a sales call, and then I have another call, and whatever it was. I read him my calendar, and he was like, that's what I want my calendar to look like. Where I come in and like I have all these things set up, and I have what to do, and I have people to talk to, and I have clients to deal with, and accounts to manage, and sales calls set up. And I was like, you don't just wake up one day and you just get your calendar filled with like all those things. Like, you gotta get out there. You gotta go hustle for a year until you finally like build enough of a pipeline where you have new sales calls, you have clients that you have to speak to, you have a thing. It could take a year, 1 to 3 years, depending on the industry, depending on the product, depending on who you're targeting till you really have like a full schedule. Like he wanted to just wake up and which is something that you could get if you go to like a big company, like let's say like we're using Zoom for this. So like Zoom will have like account executives, they'll have an SDR team, they'll have inbound marketing. So if you're an account executive, you sort of just come and they'll just put calls on your calendar. Your job is just to close them. So that's not really it's sales, but it's not like the real grind of sales, as if you're building up your own company or if you're building up your own book of business. Um, that's more like, I'm doing demos. I'm closing, you're using sales skills because, you're using different sales methodologies and different sales, overcoming objections and finding pain, but you're not doing the grind and the hustle to get there. That was sort of done for you. So to kind of like on that, to kind of like give an idea of like what it would take to really like be successful and bring in new leads and kind of build up to that point where you're constantly busy and you're constantly, you have new leads. Even at some point, hopefully, you could hire salespeople under you, which is always like the dream of a salesperson. Um, you have to do the hard work, which it really, really comes down to in the end of the day. The main thing is conversations. Having as many conversations as possible with as many people as possible. And, there are different things that you can do to make those conversations better, to have more of them, where to find those types of conversations, to have conversations with better people. But in the end of the day, like if you're starting out, just talk to as many people as you can. Even if, if you can make it targeted, you can make it more targeted, great. But like when I first started doing this, and I was really just speaking to anyone. It was anyone I would meet. I would just, hey, let's get on a call, let's get on a Zoom, let's go out for coffee. Um, so to have as many conversations as you can, there's so many different ways to do that, and we could like get into maybe some of the ways and the avenues or channels to get there. But really the main goal is conversations. Have conversations, um, and you will see, you know, results in terms of you'll see things starting to come through. Now, do you have to get better at sales and actually closing? Of course. Do you have to get better at qualifying and, disqualifying prospects? Yes, of course. But the conversation is the most important thing. Um, so yeah, I don't know if you have any like specific questions from there.
Yeah. So, I mean, so again, like the topic is really day in the life. So, like, let's say I'm
Right.
waking up in the morning and I'm an SDR and I'm working for you. And I want to know, I want you to be happy with the job that I'm doing. And I'm like, okay, so like, what am I supposed to do here? Because like, okay, I have a list of people. Like, w the one thing that we discussed last time is that if you are in sales, you should be dealing with a list of people that you can reach out with. That's a good list of people to reach out with. So that you're given, or if you're not given, you have to find that. But let's say that's not the topic of this call. Let's say I have a list of people who don't know me, but I know that they're people who it would be a good idea to talk to. What do I start doing to try to get conversations with these people?
So let's like break it down. First off, I'd say let's make believe you're not given anything. Let's just say you're building your own business for the sake of sort of going into as much as possible. Because if you're an SDR and you're going to a company, chances are they'll give you a CRM that's set up, they'll give you leads, and they'll be like, okay, go out there. So, but let's just say like you're, a business owner, you're starting on your own, or you're brought in as a full cycle salesperson without any real support. um, so where do you start? Like, what do you do? Um, so I think there's a few different avenues and channels. I actually think there's really no number to how many avenues and channels you can use to find people and prospects. It's all about finding out where your target market hangs out. So one thing that almost everyone has is a phone. So that's why, cold calling is so popular and so many companies use it as a method of finding new clients and finding new leads. So what you're going to do is basically get yourself a way of tracking those. Usually it's through a CRM, set it up in a way where you can, track what happened with each lead, but also bucket your leads. So let's say, for example, I start a business, I get a CRM, I call one of these lead data companies, whether it's Seamless or Zoom Info or whatever it is, whatever you decide to use. I like to use Upsell. Um, they're upcell.io if anyone wants to check it out. But so let's say you get that list. It's your first day. You make 100 calls, let's just say, which is a high number for some, low number for some, whatever. Let's just say 100 for the sake of the number. Um, the real goal in cold calling is not I make 100 calls a day and then I get a meeting or two a day from those calls. The real goal of cold calling is filtering out who is relevant and who is not. So let's say you call a list of 100 people. 80 of them don't answer. So you move, or let's just say maybe 50 of them don't answer, and then the other 30 are, bad numbers or whatever, I don't know, the wrong person. You get rid of 30 of them, the other 50, they're sort of just, you don't know exactly what they are. And then you have another, let's say another 20. Out of those 20, maybe, or even just, let's just, I don't know if these numbers are not going to be accurate. I'm just throwing out numbers. But let's just say you get 20 people that you speak to, and then 15 of them, tell you, nah, it's not relevant. Um, Another three of them tell you, not now. If you call me back, a different time, maybe it might be relevant. And then another two of them, say, okay, yeah, sounds cool. Send me an email. Um, so this way, what you do is you divide based on the outcome of each call. You sort of put them into a different bucket. So you create your buckets in a way that you are able to track as well as possible. So let's just say you want a bucket with cold leads where, they never really answered. You don't know if they're real, if they're good, if they're the right person. You never really spoke to them, but they're a lead. They were on a list. They seem to be someone you're trying to target. So they're in the cold bucket. You have your warm leads, which are people that, you know are the right person for whatever reason. You could be you spoke to them, could be someone referred you to them, told you their name. But you know that they're the right person. You know you have their contact information at the right number. You sort of put them in like a warm lead bucket. Then you could have someone who actually asks for more information. You could put another bucket for that. You can you basically create different filters within your CRM to like bucketize your leads, where you're separating them based on what happens. Which this way you're not just going and calling 100 leads and then tomorrow calling 100 leads and it's basically starting from scratch every single day. You're actually coming in and you're making progress every single day. Every day you call 100 leads and you put three of them into this warm lead bucket. After a month, you have 100 warm leads. And you keep doing that, you start to book meetings with them. You put meetings on your calendar, they say, send me a proposal. You send them a proposal, you get people into your proposal list, or your proposal bucket. If you want to get even more, with the tracking more advanced, you can create like a deal flow where you have stages for each deal. Um, but really, it's like creating the funnel where you have your cold leads and then you sort of move things down as they get warmer. So, but you have to keep track of which one's which. From a cold calling aspect, I would say like if that would be my initial advice to anyone that's doing cold calling is get a good list, get a good way to track, and sort your leads properly. And don't just, call and then just start again from scratch the next day. And does
And
that make
this is
sense?
why in our last conversation you explained why a CRM is so important because you're shifting that the day in the life of a salesperson is not, am I going to get a conversation with someone today? Am I going to close a deal today? In that case, it's going to be the same thing tomorrow, the same thing the next day. And you could be a year, two, three, four, five into it, and it's still exactly the same thing.
Exactly.
What it really is that it's almost an intelligence gathering mission where you're starting to learn about who these people are that you're calling and getting more information about them, organizing that information, and continuing to iterate in those things. So, like, you might have people who, oh, these are a bunch of people who said, I'm not interested because of this. Okay, well, maybe there's something else I could offer them because they just said that. Like, or these are people who I couldn't call them on the phone, but then they don't answer the phone. But maybe if I get their socials or their email, I reach out to them there. And like, I know these are
Mhm.
people who don't answer the phone. It's like, so it's like, and then what this starts to do, first of all, you start to see what's working and what's not. And then you also start to develop relationships. And now again, if you're calling 100 people a day, you can't keep track of all these relationships in your head.
Right.
So you have to know, okay, these are these kinds of relationships. These are those kinds of relationships. It's like, and depending what you're doing, like for me, it's like I have relationships with people who could potentially be clients. I have relationships with people who I know are probably not going to be clients, but they're good relationships for other reasons, And so it's like I can organize myself based on that. Like I'm going to set some time up now to like work on those relationships, and I'm going to set some time like, okay, I think it's time to just go after people who I think could be clients, and I'm going to see, okay, who's warm or who is hot or who is like this is very close, you know?
Yeah,
And so, and so, what I think what I'm hearing you say is that your job is to start to create something that is going to build over time. Like that's essentially the answer. How is it that you wake up in the morning as a salesperson and you actually have what to do?
exactly. It's funny. I had a sales manager when I first started in my first sales job. He was super intense. It was like the best experience for me because it like sort of gave me this reality check of like if you want to be successful in sales, this is what you have to do. And then he really pushed me to do those hard things. So it was great for me. But he used to compare sales to mining for gold. So I think it's like gold mining is a little bit more like okay, black and white. It's like you're looking in the dirt and you're finding gold or not. Um, but I think it's still like a very good example because you could think of it as like, I get a pile of dirt. To me, it looks like all dirt. But if you really take the time and you go and you know, m- pick through each centimeter and look or maybe now they probably have better tools to do it, which is same in sales. Like it keeps on getting more advanced and easier and filtering wise. But if you find those little tiny pieces of gold, which you could compare to like, a good lead or setting up a meeting, you sort of put that in your gold bucket. You take your dirt, you move that out. You throw that away. You take your little gold pieces, you start to fill up your bucket. And then, once you get the gold, it's not just like it's okay, now it's gold, I have it, I could sell it. I gotta nurture that gold. I gotta take it to the where whatever they do with gold to like actually make it, sellable and shiny and nice looking and shaped. Um, so I always think like he's so right when he said that. It's funny, he was so intense. He used to actually play video. He got us like a monitor and he would just like put it on the side of the office and it was just like playing gold mining videos all day long. Like that was what we had in the background just to like look like you feel like because it's because you get so discouraged because you feel like you're just digging through dirt all day. But he's like, no, if you look closely, there's tiny specks of gold. And also every once in a while, your gold mine, all of a sudden you get like a big chunk. That's like your big whale. So um I think it's a really good example. And specifically like when you're cold calling, because I think cold calling gets so daunting and people don't realize like how long it really takes to make it work. And because it's like if you're mining for gold and you get tiny specks of gold every single time you do it, it's gonna take you a year until you really like find enough gold to actually make it you're worth your while. So it's the same idea, which is I just love that example.
Yeah, that's that's intense, that monitor. I like
Yeah,
that.
yeah.
So, so is is there more to it than that? Like, is there more of a structure to the day, or it's really just that? Is it really just that open?
So on a very high level, that's what it is. Then you could get into more specifics on how to do that as efficient as possible, and like what tools you can use to sort of, instead of to go back to the gold example, if you know that there's gold in one certain spot, and then in another spot there's way less gold, you're going to want to focus on the spot with more gold. So like similarly, like with if you're targeting a list, then, you know, if you're able to analyze what you're doing, let's say, for example, you get a list of 500 people, you start calling them. And over time, you're keeping track of of what you're doing and who you're calling. And you notice trends. You notice like, oh, when I call CFOs, doesn't really resonate with them what I sell. But then when I'm talking to COOs, they love it. To them, it's something like, they really feel like they get it, and my product that I'm selling seems relevant to them. So you're going to want to target, more COOs. If you're seeing, specific industry, like I thought I could sell to, you know, I don't know, just making up accountants, lawyers, and consultants. But then I realized, lawyers are the ones that really, or law firms are really the ones that are valuing and getting benefit from my product. I'll start targeting those COOs at law firms. Um, and you could go even more and more specific. You could sort things by company size, by revenue, by location, by, there's a ton of different things that you could really drill down. And as you continue to get better and get a better understanding, um, you target more of the right people. And then instead of, getting one little piece of gold per 100 calls, you get five because you've been a lot more targeted. Uh, and then there's a ton of other things you can do. You can, get tools that make you more efficient, like a dialer. You can get dialers that will help you, with your caller ID, so you don't show up as spam. Then more people are answering your calls. There's phone validation services where you can, where they'll actually tell you which leads are most likely to answer, which will up your answer rate, which will, obviously get you more results. So, like, there's so many things that you can do and you should do to really keep on improving and getting better. And there's also, like, from an actual training perspective, getting better at just calling and sales and learning, getting better at objection handling, getting more familiar with the most common objections in your industry. Um, like, really, really getting as much information and learning and tracking as much as you can to not just be going in and blindly calling. Then you start to really get more strategic. You get more of like, I guess, like, what's the word? Like, you're sort of like drilling down on what works and what doesn't work. And as you go, you continue to get better and then hopefully, get more results.
Okay. So so let's say I come into the office in the morning and I have a list. I open up the CRM. I have a list of people I can call, and I about to pick up the phone, but it's like I'm just like, oh man, I don't know if I can do this. But I don't know what to say. I don't even know what the heck I'm doing here. What is going on right now? Like, what do you do for that?
So, by the way, could you hear the screaming in the background?
No,
Okay,
no.
good. Um,
Zoom
my
is pretty
kids.
good with that.
Yeah, okay, great. But so I think that is there's a lot in that question. I think a lot of it comes down to just being a person that can handle it and enjoys it, and doesn't get phased by, okay, I'll go a day or two or three or even a week sometimes without getting results, and I can still show up and not get discouraged. But what I do really think mo makes it easier for most salespeople is creating that system where it's kind of like, yeah, whatever, I don't feel like picking up the phone, but I do know that, what my job is and what my actions are. And I have sort of targets, and I have a lead list, and I have tools to call them, and I have a dialer. So, you have someone holding you accountable. Um, So you come in to create that environment where it's like, I'm not just sitting in my house. Even me, like, I work from home, so I'm just sitting here like it's so hard for me to like just say, all right, I'm gonna dedicate like the next hour or two just to cold calling. Because I don't really have a system for myself to, create to hold myself accountable. Like, if you're not making those calls, like someone's gonna be asking why not. If you're not bringing a new lead, someone's gonna be asking, what's going on? Is there anything we could do to help? Um, so I think like it's more about like creating an environment where it is easier for them. I feel like someone like you as I don't know if you call yourself a therapist, but like you're in that world. So like it's like the same thing as someone who asks, like how do I get over like an addiction? What if I just like it's too hard? Like and I just feel like whatever they're smoking. And you create an environment where it's it's not as much accessible. And then so I think it's a similar idea where you create like a system and you get into a groove and you get into like every day, this is what I do. I sort of come in, I make my calls, and I go from there. And also not focusing too much on like did I get a result today? Did I get a meeting today? Did I get a closed deal today? It's more like you fall in love with the process, you get good at it, you understand that that's what you need to do to be successful. So I don't know if I have like a real like great answer for that. Or maybe that was a good answer, but yeah.
It was very, I mean, I got a lot out of that answer. I did
Okay.
because
Nice.
I think that I think that what I'm hearing you say is that I sit down in front of this screen and it's daunting. It's like I got to make these calls. Um, I don't even know what I'm gonna say, or I have this things that I think I should say, but it's like last time I said it, this guy hung up on me, and it's just like really sucked. And then what am I doing? And I think that like the answer to that question is that no, you're just picking up the phone and calling now. You're not thinking about anything
Hmm.
else. You're just doing it. Like that's the magic of it is that when you're actually organized, so if you have a list of leads, you know more or less what you are talking about. You know when you're going to call them, you're going to write down what happened with the call and you're going to go on to the next one. That's all you're doing. It really is that simple. That's it.
Yeah.
I think that
Yeah.
the answer I think that you're saying is that like if someone is thinking and feeling that way, they're trying to do too much.
For sure. Yeah, I think it's also they're trying to do too much and also like they don't have something that they know works, which means like let's just say even like you said, I don't know what to say. So having a script that I know that works. I've tested this out before. I've tried different scripts. I've written down all my objections so I know like the most common objections that I get in my field.
What if you
And you
don't
get
know that? Like what if you actually don't know? What if you
so
didn't
you
have a script or you don't know if it's going to work or not, the script?
You got to learn. You got to learn and test. You got to follow people like, Josh Braun or some others that, give a lot of great tips about sales and test things out. Actually call people. See,
Right.
when I say this, they hang up on me.
Right. So the answer to I don't have a script is okay. So before you call, make a script. The answer to
Mm.
I don't know if this works or not is yeah, you don't know. So
Right.
try one out and then see if it works and then you'll know. So again, it's like the thing that's recurring over and over again is that if you look at the day as like I'm trying to get a conversation or I'm trying to get a sale or I'm trying to get this or I'm trying to get that, yeah, it is daunting because you don't know if you're going to get that or not.
Exactly.
You're only doing the next thing that you're supposed to do to make that happen. That's it. That's all you're doing.
100%. 100%. And you sort of like you're not even basing it on, okay, because I got success today, so that's why. It's because in the long term this is something that works. You sort of like learn to believe in the process that you're doing. And you also, you look, you pay attention. I'm always trying to improve what I'm doing. You're always trying to like figure out better ways or better things to say or better ways to handle certain objections. Um, you just keep on refining, keep on working. Um, and yeah, and you just, keep getting better and hopefully get better results.
Okay. So I come in, I get people to call. I start thinking, okay, I have an idea of what I'm going to say, so I got that. I know when I call them based on what response I get, what I'm going to write. So then I do that. And I start doing a lot of that. And then I get information from that. Maybe I get some conversations. Maybe I don't. But whatever it is, I'm doing that. So, and then I remember I had a question. I remember what it was. I'm trying to remember what it was. And then I kind of just like at some point in the day just get tired. Like that was like a lot. But there's like a couple hours left to doing this. What do you do?
Take a break. Take a break. If you need to go home early, go home early. I think there's no it's you know you're not just trying to stick it out just to stick it out, even though you're going to be exhausted, you're going to be out of it, and your calls are going to anyways be bad. You're going to call people with especially with cold calling. I think we might have spoke about this in one of the other calls where you have like 3.5 seconds before to earn the next 30 seconds of a cold call. If you're not in the zone, you're not going to be able to do that. Like the slight, tiredness or laziness or, out of it tone in your voice will automatically shine over the phone, and you're just not going to be able to get those results. So some people might say, oh, but just in case, you might want to stay. So whatever. I think it's what you think will work for you. Like base it on the day. If you're really out of it and you need a break, sales is very hard. Go take an early day. Like, there's no reason to just stick it out just to stick it out. Um, yeah.
Yeah, so how do you get it in the zone? What works for you?
So it's funny. I always used to, I never really knew how to do this, and I still struggle with it, I feel like. But I heard a great piece of advice. I think it's a little bit nuts, but it also like makes a lot of sense. Um, so basically what I don't know if you ever heard of Jordan Belfort. He's the guy in the movie Wolf of Wall Street. So he says in his book basically what he does. It sounds a little bit nuts, but it really works. If you create for yourself, like I think he calls it maybe a trigger, something that every time you do it puts you in the zone. How do you create that? Is when you feel like you're in the zone, you do that trigger.
Yeah, it's
So
like an
when he
NLP hypnosis technique.
Yeah,
Yeah.
something like that. So
Yeah.
he could be he even calls it that. So
I think it's
he
called an anchor. It's called an anchor,
an
I think.
anchor,
Yeah. Yeah.
exactly.
Yeah.
Yes. So he says to basically there's this product where it's like a flavored sniffing thing where it supposedly gives you energy. So he uses that as his anchor, where he'll buy this like it's like watermelon smelling, and it's supposed to like you smell it, and then it gives you like a boost of energy. So for him, it's like a double. It's like you're getting the boost of energy, and you're also using it as an
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
anchor.
That's
Um,
interesting.
so so that's a little bit, I guess, more, if you're into that stuff type of thing. But I have tried it in the past, and it's helped me. It's definitely helped me. Um, so, he says like, right before you're about to start your calling, go use your anchor, go do it, whatever that is.
Yeah.
Um, but I don't really know a great answer. I think I struggled with that in certain times, and I think it's the kind of thing also that you just okay, some days not on the top of my game, and I might be a little bit more out of it, and you know sometimes you push through it and it wasn't the best day, but if you're doing the right moves and following the system, then like I always like to say, hopefully you will see results.
So that's the careful balance, and I think that's a life challenge because we know that like if we go about what we do in any area of life from energy that's not optimal, we're not going to get optimal results. At the same time, we still got to do what we got to do, even if we're not in that optimal state. It's a big, big challenge to know when's time to actually push forward because, like, I just got to do this even though I'm not feeling it now, and when's time to actually take a break. Um, because you kind of like, there isn't a clear cut right or at some point, like, if you're just not showing up to work, like, hey, you just got to sit down and do this, or this isn't for you. But there is some like gray area where, you know, I'll tell you something that I did that worked for me with this. This is really interesting because I realized, okay, these calls, like I know I want to make them feeling good making them because A, I know it's only really going to work if I do that, and B, I'm not going to be able to sustain doing this a lot if it feels really crappy doing it. But I also know that like I don't really want to do it right now. Like I'm just not feeling it. I know there's moments when I'm in the zone, but I'm just not feeling it right now. So what I told myself was is that I'm gonna show up and I'm gonna sit here in front of the phone and the computer ready to make the call. And I'm not gonna do anything else but that, but I'm only making the call once I feel like it. So I'm just gonna wait until I get that. And
That's
I
cool.
wait, just sit there waiting. Like I see this name, I see this number, and I just like wait. And then sometimes, like at the first time I did it, it took a long time. I think it was like even an hour, but I was like, okay, this is what I'm doing now, but I'm just gonna wait. And now it's like shorter. It's like that time frame
Wow.
now shortened to almost seconds or minutes or something. Or if I'm like not feeling this guy, maybe okay, what else, who else can I reach out with, or what else can I do that's actually productive? That's a little bit, for some reason, this doesn't feel right. Like I will, so what I'm trying to do is like not distract myself with other things, be patient if I need it, and then also like, try to do outreach that feels good when I'm doing it. And if this one doesn't feel good, maybe I'll do a different one. Or if this is what I know I need to do, then I'll just sit on it and wait until that happens.
That's very cool. I've never thought of that, and I would definitely try that. Um, I feel like it's similar. I do that. It's a little different, but I feel like it's a similar idea with food when sometimes if I do it, but when I want to eat junk, so I'll be like, okay, like I'll give myself the junk, but like I'll only have it, in let's say, let me first eat something healthy, and then at 9 o'clock, if I still want it, then I'll go for it. So I don't know if it's the same idea, um,
It's a
but it's kind of
similar,
like
there is
similar.
similarities there, you know,
Yeah.
because you're kind of trying to balance doing the thing that you want to do, that you should do, with doing the thing that you want to do. This is not what you should do by like forcing yourself to wait, like, and that
Yeah.
like that patience is interesting. There is this concept in Tanya. So Tanya is the like the founding work of Chabad Hasidic thought.
Hmm.
And there it talks about how a person wrestles between their good inclination and their bad inclinations and what to do. And what it actually says there is that a person's good side and their bad side are always equally matched. So it's like literally like a fight, like an MMA fight or any fight where you have two people that are equally matched and like they're like locked in going back and forth toe to toe, and it's just like it's really a toss up in terms of who's going to win.
Wow.
So, and like, so what's going on is like, okay, I really want to do this thing, but I know I shouldn't, but I really want to do it, but I know I shouldn't. And there's like, you're locked in with this. Like, everyone's experienced this where it's like, man, it's like this thing that we know we should do, but we don't want to, or this things that we shouldn't do, but we really want to. And it's like, I'm not letting myself do it, but I also can't stop that urge to do it. And we're just stuck in that spot. And what he says there is that if you wait there patiently, God comes in and tips the fight in your favor, but you got to be willing to
Wow.
wait. So, so what I found is that like very often, and you see this a lot in stories, and I see it in life also, is that patience is the number one ally of the good side, and rushing things quickly is like the ally of the bad side because it's the rush
Wow.
to find the solution to that internal pressure, which forces a person usually to do the thing that they shouldn't do just to relieve the pressure. And it's if you can stay in that pressure waiting, meaning you can't force yourself to do the good thing or to not do the bad thing yet fully, but you just wait there, that patience opens up opportunity for God to come in and then help you out.
That's very crazy. Um, wow. That's powerful.
Yeah.
That's
Yeah.
super
And,
powerful.
and that's like the whole game of like, if you ever read The Power of Now by Eckhart Tolle, this whole idea of like conscious awareness, but it's this idea that if you can be more mindful and patient in the moment and just aware, observe what's going on and be aware of things, then that the power of that light of consciousness itself will push away darkness. Um,
Wow.
And but that's probably one of the hardest things for us to do.
That's crazy. Yeah. Wow, I didn't th think this would turn into a spiritual conversation, but that's what it's all about at the end of the day. So I'm
Yeah.
happy
I
that
mean, I've always felt a connection to salespeople and the idea of sales. I'm learning more and more that it's actually because I think it's a core part of who I am, although for years I was terrified of it. I had some cold calling jobs when I first started out in my working career that dude, I just like ran out of the office like almost crying. Like I just couldn't do it. I just like I just that sitting in front of that phone was so freaking scary. And
yeah.
I was actually working for Life Alert for a little bit. You know that like help I fall and I can't get up. That like
Yeah.
senior, yeah. So I worked out for Life Alert. I worked for Life Alert for a few months or 6 months or something like that. And I remember I had like a family. So I was doing okay actually. That was cool because it was a product that like you could really believe in. It was like saving people's lives. So like that felt pretty good. So I was starting to close some deals and whatever, like close some sales. And I remember it took like went to like a family event or bris or something, and all the kids got sick while I was there. So instead of being out of the office for like a week, it was like 2 or maybe 3. I don't remember what it was. And when I got
Wow.
back, there was like no more leads. It was like I was starting all over again. And I went to the guy. He's like, "Yeah, what do you think? You think like business rests because like you weren't here?" And that was it. I was gone. I was like, "No, no, I'm not doing that again." I was so devastated. It was so hard. And I was like, "Oh, I gotta do that all over again."
That is awesome. And he's right. He's right
Yeah,
at the
yeah,
end of the
yeah.
day.
He was right. He was right. He was
Wow.
totally right.
Wow. That's awesome. Um, I feel like we could speak about if we're going back to like sort of like day in the life, some other avenues or channels that a salesperson could use to get more leads and bring in more sales. I think that when I was in sales, really like working as a salesperson for a company, I relied so much on the phone. For me, it was always cold calling. Uh, I never really got out of that became, it's funny because that's probably the hardest thing in sales. And somehow that became my comfort zone. Like I didn't have to go out of the office, I didn't have to go to events. I don't have to go meet with people. I don't have to, sit down for coffee with anyone. And then when I started my business, working on my own, you can't really just rely on cold calls to build a business up from the ground. You have to get your name out there. There's certain like brand recognition or even personal brand recognition that you have to build up. So you really do have to like get out of your office. And even if it just means when I say get out of your office, like getting on a Zoom call, but just like speaking to people and becoming real and not just like cold calling behind the phone. That's when I really learned like the power of like using other channels as well and like a multi-channel outreach type of thing. Um,
Yeah.
and the
Yeah.
two, I could say there's probably a million different places and ways that you can find people. And there's Facebook groups and there's Reddit groups and there's Twitter groups and whatever. There's a million different things, but like the two that I feel like I've really worked a lot and have gained a ton are networking and LinkedIn, which sort of go hand in hand because um, the whole point of like the LinkedIn side of things is to really like build connections and speak, use it to find people that are relevant to you and can, then go ahead and start engaging with your content. Then their audience sees your content and then so to use like I feel like it's like it does a little bit intertwine with networking, but I think that if you're getting out, going to events, meeting with people, having coffees with people, even if they're not your target clients, just getting your name out there. When someone asks like, "Hey, I need a salesperson," they're like, "Oh, why don't you speak to Abe?" I don't know if he's good. I don't know if he could do it, but you might as well speak to him. He's. I keep on seeing his name pop up. So using LinkedIn, even doing outreach on LinkedIn, like you find someone trying to spark up a conversation, that doesn't have to mean selling directly to them the second you meet them, but it could even just mean like, finding someone that you think could be a good client and then engaging with their content for 3 months. And then, after that, sending a message like, hey, I love your content, been seeing it all over. Um, keep up what you're doing, getting in their face. I can't tell you how many um, prospects I've gotten meetings with, at least a bunch that have closed, who I've gotten them by sort of, I was like, should I reach out to them? And then I was like, no, let me just get in their face. And I even like know that they have the pain that I solve. So it's sort of like just getting in their face enough until they reach out to me. It's happened so many times, so many. And
Yeah.
I'm like, even and when it happens, I'm like, oh, finally, this person's reached out. Like I've been waiting for you to reach out to me. Um, and so I think those two channels also will help a lot.
There's so much in what you're saying, and to try to sum it up, I wish we had more time to actually go down this rabbit hole because what you're saying is two things. The first is that over time you develop a certain intuition about how to reach out to people, um, and like to deliberately not reach out to them. That is not something that a novice would do, is like deliberately not reach out, not because you're afraid to pick up the phone, but just because you know with this person, they're going to see you and know enough about you that they don't need anything else other than that. That
100%.
that awareness when it comes, and it does come as you, if you are like, if you do have the knack for it and you spend the time, it does come. And the other thing is that maybe I think it's like also for each show. I don't know how if you would agree to this or not, but I think that it could be that like yeah, there's certain channels that are very powerful for different things, and like you would say like who would not who should not use LinkedIn. Like I don't see why a person would not use LinkedIn, but maybe for some people it doesn't work for them. Because I've also done so much with. I mean, we met over LinkedIn,
Right.
but by trying out different channels and different things, you start to get a lot more information about how you do it, how to reach out to people, and what to use together. Like I was just using LinkedIn and I found like at some point this wasn't this isn't working. And then I started using the phone, and then I'm like, oh, this is great. And I'm like, what if I use the phone with LinkedIn? Meaning when I'm on LinkedIn, I'm like, okay, what's this person's phone number? Oh, I don't see it on LinkedIn. Okay, well, maybe I could use Seamless or another tool to get their phone number. And now I call them and I message them on LinkedIn, or I got someone's phone number, but I'm like, okay, who is this person? So I go to their LinkedIn, I see who they are.
Right.
So like all these different things, if you start to realize, oh, I could use all these different things together. Um, and again, as you just get better with information, I think that like this is what we started, and I think that it's like really important is that sales is actually it's not like book smart intelligence, but it's people intelligence. And if you look at it as intelligence gathering in terms of developing your intuition and knack for reading people and getting them, and also like understanding for what you're doing, what are the different ways you can reach out to people and which ones work better and which ones don't, and learning that over time, you start to realize, yeah, this is so hard. But then once I figure it out, I actually have a business with somewhat of a moat around it because for someone else to figure this out, it's going to take a lot of time and it's going to be very, very hard.
1,000%. Um, wow.
It's getting better and better. Maybe we will do a fourth. All
Let's do it.
right, man. So I hope everyone enjoyed. This is Braha. And how do people reach you again? I'll put the link under the video to your
You could
website.
find website or LinkedIn.
Yeah, but
Um, yeah.
if you're a founder and you've built your company up and you can't do all the sales anymore and you don't want to waste all your money hiring a salesperson who you don't know how to train, talk to Abe.
And hey, cold call me also.
Yeah, 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 sure.